Hi there, everybody. Finally got ourselves back on some form of presentation level here. It seems Facebook is having a couple of issues with streaming, so we may very well put it onto stream it to YouTube tomorrow or similar. But for now, we are doing a pre-recording of the Van Niekerk brothers and their fantastic presentation. So yeah, without further ado, let's have Anton take you through their work. So Anton, over to you.
Great. Hi, guys. Sorry, massive tech issue on our side is that we don't actually have the ability for our camera to come on our laptop. So I'm just going to do this sight unseen, and hope you guys can just imagine what's going on. I look like Q, just different. No glasses. My book is not as long, and my hair's a bit shorter. So imagine that, but just completely different.
Sounds good.
So.
Sounds good.
A little bit of an intro. My brother and I, we started in the film industry in '92. We started at the bottom of the field in the film industry. So we started as runners and PAs and that sort of stuff. You learn the lighting, you learn grips, grip switches, any camera, whatever a camera goes onto, which is a tripod or a dolly or anything that it gets mounted on, that's called grips. I went into art departments, lighting, camera, the whole lot, and then strongly into production. So I eventually became a production manager, producer as well. I drifted then back into camera, and so our company now is where we do camera, production, editing, the whole bang shoot, one-stop shop here as well. My brother specialized more in editing. He just can't join us today, but I'll explain sort of his view and his insight into editing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a bit of an intro so that you guys can see sort of where we're coming from, what we have done and do as a company, just so it'll make a bit of sense when we go forward. I'll focus more on video, although we'll show photography, because a lot of photographers are being asked to cross-platform. They're being asked to do photography and video, and it's quite a challenge to go from photography into video. So I'm hopefully going to help out a bit with that. And then obviously a little bit of pointers as well with photography. What we as a company and as individuals have learned, what we do is we'll do anything. So we're not specialists in terms of construction or portraits or anything like that. Like the film industry, you get a brief and they say, here's the job, and you don't say, well, we can or can't do it. With film and video, we have to say, yeah, sure, we'll do it, and then we find out how to actually make it happen. So we cross over into virtually anything. So I'm just going to play our intro, just so that you guys get an understanding of who we are and where we've come from. Great. So I think that just gives you a bit of an idea that we've done a crazy amount of stuff, and it's all very varied. And that's pretty much because we, as I said, you could ask, can you do the project? And we'll say, yeah. So what happened in about 2008 is Canon came out with the 5D Mark II, and the 5D Mark II changed our industry. It turned our film and video industry on its head, because with this stills camera, you could suddenly shoot HD video, and because of the photographic lenses and also the quality of the video codec, etc., the video that you could shoot with the stills camera, DSLR, was actually better than you could shoot with some of the other normal video cameras, because the image was just so darn pretty. And so that revolutionized our industry. The guys were having to transition from film to video, and the video just couldn't do it. So suddenly they had these pretty lenses, these pretty bodies, these pretty everything, and they could suddenly shoot video. And so that just exploded the world of DSLR filming and everything, and it just made it so viable. The challenge that it brought to the table as well is suddenly you had to shoot film, and suddenly you had to shoot video, and you had to shoot stills, and you had to then shoot video. So it put a bit of a challenge, because suddenly your one-day photo shoot turned into a one-day photo shoot and video shoot. What we as a company decided is that we'd shoot them side by side. Someone would shoot stills and someone would shoot video. The quagmire that guys walked into then is that, man, how the hell do I do all of this stuff? How do I do this thing of shooting video and stills and sound and all of that? And it was very complicated for people. And as you can see here, Darryl's shooting stills, I'm shooting video. This is on the ferry from Robben Island. It helps a lot when you've got two people who can do it, because you can't reset. You can't shoot both as one-man team. So we often go out as a two-man team, and we just choose who's going to shoot video, who's going to shoot stills on that day. As you can see from the sound point of view, I'm just going to go back a slide. You can see that the boom just below the orange wind direction thing, that's sound, and sometimes it's non-possible. So you'll actually just mount a 3.5mm mic on top of the camera, and that's how you'll go forward with it.
Anton,
just
a quick question.
Yeah.
So obviously now, you've got the whole situation of doubling up, your crew, if you're going to do it at the same time. What are the implications cost-wise? Or you're obviously, you've got two crew, two cameras, etc. What do your clients say about that? Or for them, is it fine? You've quoted on film and you've quoted on stills. Do they have a problem with that?
Q, it's a thing that everybody's finding their feet around. The problem that we have as an industry, and let's be honest and frank about it, is that because of the cost of DSLRs coming down quite low, and you've got so many people trying to get into the market, you've got a very low price point that clients are thinking is a norm. They think, okay, fine, I'm paying a small amount, it means I'm getting the same kind of imagery, and that's a very, very difficult conversation for us to get across to clients. That's quality. Sure, pay the small price, but get the small value. And it's a very difficult thing for them to understand that low price does not mean I'm going to get the same quality. And they really need to understand that. And they need to come to the party and understand, if you've got one day to shoot both, you're going to sacrifice one. You're either going to have rushed stills or you're going to have rushed video. And you can't shoot both at the same time. So they're going to have to either prioritize, either I'm going for stills, or I'm going with video, or I'm going to pay for a two-man crew, or two-woman crew, or however it works. So they're going to have to say, I'm paying for two people, I'm paying for two bodies, and they're going to have to just understand that that's what comes in, and they're going to have to pay for all the associated things that go on, which is going to be for sound. And sometimes you can't shoot sound and stills and video, so you're going to have a third person on the crew. I'm just going to go back to this previous image. Here you've got a sound guy, and you've got a video guy, and you've got another video guy. So there's a three-person crew, and then a director, and then a producer. So it depends on the size of the shoot, the size of the crew, what they're willing to actually go to. Then if they going to go to these rigs, and this is the thing that they're going to have to understand, is you can't just get a stable platform handheld. So you're going to have to invest in stabilized rigs, and that's going to then, let's talk into the complexity. The more advanced your rig, the more time it takes to set up, and they're going to have to understand that what you'd shoot in a one-day shoot could be a 1.5 day to 2 day thing, and it really is something that the client's going to have to understand and come to the party. What is the image that they're expecting? So they're going to show you a video that they've seen on another client's site, and they're going to say, this is beautiful, how do we do it? And you say, well, that's a stabilized rig. Well, that's a drone shot. And suddenly you've got a drone crew and a video crew and an audio crew and a stills crew, and they're going to have to understand that this is the exponential thing. There's a lot that goes into making a production look the way that they're seeing it. So that's a very strong discussion you have to have with clients. And they're expecting your stills package to translate just into video, but your camera can shoot video. Yeah, baby, but I can shoot one at a time.
Absolutely.
So which one are you willing to pay for? You're going to pay for one or the other, or if you're going to pay for both, you're going to pay for both. And it's a thing that client can't understand, and it's something that you're going to just have to walk them through and be patient and say, this event's not going to stop for anybody. If we're shooting video and we're shooting stills, it's going to be you're going to pay for 2 people at a minimum.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Just going to go on to the next aspect. So here you can see what Darryl and I have done to meet that criteria. Shooting video on the C300 Mark II on the bottom. And the thing that I want to discuss with everybody is that with stills, to get a stable image, all I have to do is I just have to change my shutter speed if I'm going handheld. So the rule of thumb that we basically use, everybody's going to have it with a stabilized lens, handheld. The average that I'm going to do for a non-moving subject is 50 frames per second for a 50mm lens. As soon as I go to 100mm lens, I'm going to have to go to 100 frames per second. If I go to what Darryl's using here, which is probably the 70 to 200, at 200, I'm going to have to use a shutter speed of 200 handheld. And that's easy for us with photography. We can just keep changing our shutter speed to meet our stabilization requirements. With video, it doesn't work that way. You have to have a stable platform for the video. Unless you're a wizard with your handheld stabilization, which I'm pretty good at, but there's a limit with everything. You're going to have to stabilize your camera platform for video, because all little movements are going to be seen. Even if you're on a wide angle lens, you're still going to see a bit of floating. So I recommend stabilize your video, and you can handhold your photo and make adjustments with shutter speed, but you can't just increase your shutter speed and expect to have no movement on your video. What we do to sometimes hide a bit of movement is that you actually then go into slow motion. So if I have no alternative with wildlife, you can't exactly set up a tripod with a leopard and just say, won't you just hold still, baby? I'm just going to put it quickly onto my tripod. So what you do is you shoot slow motion. So this is slow motion of a leopard, and you'll see, although it's handheld, you do have a little bit of leeway with it. So I'm just going to get in there. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of motion rocking happening, but because it's slow motion, you actually forgive it. So dopey-faced leopard still looks cool, even though you're going handheld. So that's a way that you can get around that, and that's going at 100 frames. This was the Canon 1DX Mark II. Beautiful image, beautiful video on the 1D2. And that was a 600mm lens. Okay, so this video is when you don't have it in slow-mo. Now you're going to see all of that camera motion. Can you see that rocky, blurry, well, not blurry, but you can see that motion blur. It's
yeah, it definitely jumps a lot more.
Yeah. So here's the thing: when you're shooting on video with your stills rig, is to ensure that you have what they call a video head. So this is a fluid head. With your standard stills tripod, you've got your, you just lock it and then it's in place. But with video, you've got to pan, tilt, or pan and tilt, and that has to be very smooth. And you're not going to get that on a standard photo head. So the best thing to do is to always go onto a fluid head so that you can pan, tilt, and all that sort of stuff a lot easier. What it'll help with if you're shooting wildlife and you've got a fluid head, it just helps you to pan your photos a lot easier and a lot smoother without having to lock, release, all that sort of a thing. So that's just a thing to understand if you are going to transition into video, is to try and get some kind of fluid head on your tripod. Otherwise, what we do, you can see I've got the strap around my neck. This was going from Robben Island back to Cape Town, and it was obviously the sea, and it's very bouncy. So you put it around your neck and you push away from the body. So that creates your 3-point contact. Left arm, right arm, 2 points, and then the stability through the strap, which I'm pushing away from my neck. And obviously the legs have to be as stable as possible. So you've got to go down a little bit, crouch a little bit, put a bit of spring into your chassis just to get a little bit more stability. Another thing that we found when you're shooting video is you're looking through the back LCD screen, and you get a lot of reflection of light. So what we did when we were shooting outside in the bush, we created a screen, a little cover that went over our head, and the inside of that is black. So although it's a little bit camouflaged on the outside, the inside is black to stop reflection. And that's a battle that we have looking at our LCD screens outside, is that we get a lot of reflection. So come up with different ways to help to avoid that reflection. Most professional photographers look through the eyepiece, as everybody does, but with a lot of camera formats, as soon as you go to video, it'll only show video through the back LCD screen, and reflection is a bugger to actually see where's my focus point, what am I seeing, and that sort of a stuff. So this is a way that we found to go over that reflection through the back LCD screen. Then the thing that we do have is we have the gift now of expanding video cards. Video cards are getting bigger and they're getting faster, and we can shoot more. When we shoot with video, what we find is that the file size is huge. So as a photographer, you think, man, I've got a 16 gig card, I can shoot all day on my stills. As soon as you go to video, especially HD, especially full HD, and we're not even going to talk about what 4K eats for breakfast, your card has to be bigger and it has to be faster. And this is something that the photographers start to vomit a little bit at, is that you're paying $2 grand, $4 grand, $6 grand for our CFast cards. When we first got them for our, I think they're 256 gig, I can't see them lying around. We were paying like $8 grand a pop for a card. And that's a real hard knock to invest in, because you're going to shoot a lot of video when you go out there, and you're going to eat a 16 gig card, and you're going to eat a 32 gig card, and they're going to be fast cards, because otherwise they're just not going to take it. And as soon as we go on to 4K, that card has got to be fast, or you're just not going to shoot it. If you're wanting to shoot slow-mo, that card has to be fast. And it's not saying that the producers of the cameras and stuff are not coming to the party. They're doing their best to give us what they can with these cards. We're lucky that we're not shooting on these other formats, which are very expensive. So when shooting with your video, Darryl's showing a way that you can stabilize through your 3-point contact. It's on his knee, he's using both hands, and he's focus pulling, and he's using his eye. This is the Canon C5. Man, I can't remember if this was the 300 or the 500. But either way, the nice thing that Canon did for us, because it's a proper professional camera, this is the C range, is that you can still look through the viewfinder, through the eye. There is a back, on the top of that mount is an LCD video screen, so you can use that. But what we prefer to use is through the eye, because then you're shutting out all the outside light, and you're actually seeing your focus points much clearer. Here's something that we shot when we were doing the launch of the Porsche 911 at Kyle Army Racetrack, just opened. We shot stills and video supplemental, and with some of the features you have to do hand focus on a moving object. They were pulling 240 k's down that straight, and you had to hand pull that. So this is just a thing of expectation and something to just realize. Hand pulling a car coming at you at 240 kilometers an hour and getting a focus point spot on. That's something that, yeah, I think respect for Darryl for pulling that one off. And that's why I chose stills on that shoot.
A lot of practice to get that right.
But it's knowledge. You just got to know. You just got to know where that focus point is. That's what I wanted to discuss on this insert as well, is that we're shooting video with stills lenses. And I think that's something to appreciate when you do your transition from stills to video. You're shooting stills, you're shooting video with the stills lens. And what happens with a video lens is it's got to stop. So it stops on minimum focus and it stops on maximum focus. So you know exactly where you are. With the stills lens, there's no stop and start. You just, that barrel just tumbles all the way around. You can be at any point. So that focusing on video is going to be a hell of a thing. Practice, practice, practice. The 70 to 200's a bear to shoot video. It's beautiful, but it's a micromillimeter focal point, especially if you're going down to anywhere near f4, f.2.8 or anything like that, a micromillimeter adjustment. The gift that we have with the 5D Mark IV, with the 1D2 and everything after that, going on to EOS RS and all that, is you've got LCD screen focus. And so what you can do is you can just drag your finger across the back and you'll have that go into focus. And what that helps us to do when we were shooting this Plascon piece is you could just change your focus point by dragging on the screen. And it just really helps us a lot. Gives you this really nice, really smooth, really controlled focus point change. And you could go from where you wanted without having to battle with the photo lens shooting video. So just know when you're going to go from photo to video and you're using a photo lens, it's going to be really difficult to do that focal point. Then people will ask, well, what's a good lens to shoot video? What's a good lens to shoot
and
photo?
What settings should we use?
Let's not even start there. So Canon, we love, yes. Canon has started with the best video and it still shoots some of the best video, and that's for a good reason. They invest a lot of money and it's worth it. So you've got to say what video is going to be good to shoot my video, trial and error. Initially, I never liked the 70 to 40, the photographic lens as a video lens because it wasn't as smooth with pulling focus. There's some lenses that I don't like to use for video because of the way that they pull focus, and obviously these are not your prime lenses. Some of those primes are just gorgeous to shoot video, but you've got to say, what am I shooting, and what do I need? So the best thing that we do is whenever we need a setup of lenses like this is we go to our rental places. So we go to the photo and video rental places and walk into the shop and say, fine, I need a 50. Do I need the hell of an expensive 1.2? Can I get by on the on the f4? Can I get by on the ones with the higher stop? Because video is very different to photo. And just see, man, what works, what doesn't. And then we hired in all of this. All of this was hired in for a shoot. And this was mainly the stills rig that we used. But this was obviously, we could cross-platform this onto our video that we shot. You can see I shot with 5 DSR because this was going to be blown up onto a big platform. So if you're ever in doubt, go to these higher places. they've got almost everything that you're looking for, and give it a trial, see what works best. And as I was saying with that, you can see Darryl's going to be pulling focus. This was probably a 51.2 that he had on the end there. Wide landscapes, find out what pulls focus best, what doesn't pull focus best, and see what works. Just a thing for all the photographers out there, you know what's coming up. You can only shoot landscape when shooting video. You cannot shoot portrait when shooting video. I'm filming sideways. What a... I got dragged for that for a long time, and I've made that mistake a couple of times since. Yeah, it's such a pity because, man, can you imagine doing some beautiful portrait shots in video? But sadly, we can't. Save that for IMAX. So this is now going on to shutter speed. This is the photographic dream. This was a very nice opportunity that we had to shoot the new 911. And so shooting these in the motion shots. So a thing that we had to learn very quickly is that to get these beautiful motion blur shots, you don't go very fast. So you think, man, you guys must have been cruising to get this. Man, we were shooting at about 40 kilometers an hour in order to slow that shutter speed down. So all you're doing is you're slowing the shutter speed. We were shooting at, well, I wish I could remember. I'd have to look at the stills to go to. I think we're shooting at about f30, sorry, a 30th of a second or less to get these things. And when you're traveling in the car, if the car that I'm shooting goes over a bump, it's going to be out of focus. If the car that I'm shooting in goes over a bump, it goes out of focus. So what we do is we just put it on burst, and then we'd find our spot and we just shoot and burst, like grrr, see what works. If you're asking what's your f-stop, with the vehicle manufacturer, the front of the vehicle and the back of the vehicle has to all be in focus. So that'll determine how close, what it is. I think this was something like an F20 or something like that. So you really do have to do a whole lot of trial and errors, and then try and stabilize the camera as much as you can. Obviously have a stabilized lens and shoot burst. You're going to shoot a lot and bin a lot, but find out what the requirements are of the manufacturer. Front of the vehicle, back of the vehicle, all had to be in focus, and that took a lot of trial and error to get right. Obviously, if you then slow your shutter speed down, this was Tyrone McKendry's shot, you're going to know that there's, step back. If I'm going to increase my shutter speed, I'm going to freeze the motion, and that's going to give me that impression that I'm looking at. And that's here with this data in flight. Quinton and Roger, you guys are now getting into this devil of a thing of trying to do bird photography, and this was a great example of the 1D2, what it can actually do. It's a beautiful rig with beautiful lenses, and you can get that. The reason that you know that you've got motion captured is because the bird can't hover. So you know that you've got the motion blur with the high shutter speed. Here with the high shutter speed on performance cars, you'll see that the rims, the mags, are static. So you can't actually tell if this car is going fast or not. So that's why it's best to actually slow the shutter down to actually get that motion blur going. So yes, you can see that the car is tilting, and therefore it must have been going fast, and there's a little bit of heat exhaust on the back of it. But if your shutter speed's high, great, you've got the car in focus, but you're not conveying that sense of speed. This was shooting the construction of the Kyalami racetrack, and how do you make a vehicle that is trundling super slow look like it's really, they're working as fast as they can to get the job done. This is panning with the vehicle, so the longer the lens, the easier it's going to be. I didn't have that much of freedom to go as long as I wanted to, so this was daylight on a white subject. I had it at 100 ISO. I had it at f22 in order to shut down my shutter speed as much as I could. And I think I was on 20th of a second or 14th of a second to get this thing handheld. So that's just from doing video, where you've got the ability to actually keep as steady as you can, and then you just pan and follow, and that makes this slow moving vehicle look like it's going really fast. The same again with the tracking of the vehicles, is your shutter speed as slow as you can to get the motion. Here you can see the mags, the yellow mags, which differentiates the different kinds of models. What I needed to do is I had to shoot this specific journalist, so I had to see him through the windscreen. In order to do that, I used a polarizing filter. So polarizing filter helps to cut the reflective surfaces, and I could then see inside to see the motor journalist while doing the shot. The other way to do it as well is you lock off your camera and have the moving vehicle pass through. You can recognize the shape of the 911, and it says Porsche on the poster, so you know what it is. But by having a longer shutter speed, you get a bit of motion where you can't, which just conveys the sense of speed. Shutter speed as well is late at night. This is the PwC building in Midrand. Is you open up your shutter speed and you get a different luster. Although I could have shot this with a higher shutter speed and just, and just increase my ISO, this also lets in a little bit more light, lets in a little bit more texture. And if you're going to be slowing down your shutter speed, why not have a bit of fun? So what I did is I had this on a video head. I had it on the video head. I had it at 30 seconds. I exposed 15 seconds to get the texture of the building. And then I just panned left and panned right for the rest of those remaining 15 seconds. So that's single exposure. I knew that at 15 seconds I'd have the building in, open up for 30 seconds, and I let a bit of that texture come through, which is quite a nice bit of creative architectural shot. Here's a shot just to tell people, if you're going to be doing photography, here's a nice lodge with a nice environment and everything, but it's a shite shot. So increase your shutter speed like this. Drop your camera and you can get in the texture that you've got going, but it's more interesting. So there's our dull, boring space. The counter's dull. Drop your camera down, put it on the counter, put in some motion blur, and suddenly it's warm and it's just got motion and it feels better. So that's just a thing of saying, when should I use it? What should I use it? What am I showing? And this just creates a little bit of interest with vanishing points and all that sort of thing. Astrophotography. Wherever I go, and I know that I'm going to have a bit of a good sky without some light spill from cities, etc., I can then shoot the sky. This is in the Western Zoutpansberg, at a place called La Juma. And in order to get good shots like this, you're going to have the widest lens that you can. This is Roger's personal 14mm. I can't remember what it was. If it was a 2.8 or an f4, I can't remember. It was a very nice lens, very fisheye to show a lot of that thing. You're going to expose on average for about 30 seconds at full width. If you expose for longer, you're going to then have the stars are going to move, and you're going to then start to get a little bit of blur on the stars. So 30 seconds is about your max. Go to whatever your ISO is that you can without getting noise. So you're going to walk right into your noise spectrum, and then obviously you're going to drop down to the lowest f-stop that you can to get that. And that's going to get you the chance of seeing what you want to see. Here on the left, you have to shoot on RAW. The left-hand image is the unprocessed RAW image. The image on the right is the processed RAW image. So the camera captures the information that you want. You then got to go into your dark room, and you've got to then pull it out. You can't even see on the left-hand image that satellite trail. Yet once you take it into the darkroom, you can see it's all there. All the colors are there, all the little bits and pieces. And you just got to know how to work your Lightroom or Photoshop, your Camera Raw or your DPP to get that information that the camera has captured and get that out of it. So here's a, yes. So people are like, how can I shoot video of the stars that I'm seeing? You can't. You can't shoot it with video. You have to shoot a series of stills and combine those into video. A thing to remember is with PAL, and that's what we view here in South Africa, is the PAL format. The PAL format is 25 frames a second. The NTSC format is 30 frames a second. So to have 1 second of video, 1 second is 25 frames. That's 25 photographs. So if you want to have a 10-second clip, you've got to shoot 250 stills. So 250 stills exposed for 30 seconds each, and then the camera's got to process it for maybe 20 seconds. So that's, let's say, a minute per still. That's 250 minutes to get this sort of image. What you can do is, the eye is very forgiving, so you can shoot sort of 12 stills to make up a second of video. You just got to slow it down. So this was not the best exposures, but it was something that I could get. Wasn't it amazing how in photo I could also capture sound? You can't. So what you do is you can use an external recorder, shoot some sound, shoot it on your phone, shoot it on whatever. You can just record some video for whatever the seconds is that you're going to do it, and then play that sound over the video. So again, just to remember, sound explains video. So just watch it again. So that's just the importance of sound in video, and you really, really got to remember first, what is my sound, and then shoot the video, because the video is going to explain your sound. The sound is going to explain your video. Here's a shot that I did. All that camera gear that you saw, that was for this project. We had to go around the country and do a video to show logistics. And this was on the road between Vivo and Louis Trichardt, or Mercado, and we're traveling along. Suddenly, boom, the sky was just right, stopped on the side of the road, and I exposed, allowing a vehicle that was coming into the shot to actually show the car lights. This was my favorite shot. This was shot with the 5D SR. Everybody says, no, it can't, it's got too much noise, it can't shoot low light conditions. Rubbish. Don't listen to what people say. Do what you want and learn by yourself. So never get dictated to by camera reviews. It's a damn fine camera, and I think this is my favorite star shot. I was very happy with the 5DSR. So if someone says you can't do astrophotography with the 5DSR, walk out the room, never speak to them again. They don't know what they're talking about. Right, getting on to wildlife photography. Andrew Everly Badger, he rocks this, but this is just the little bits that we've learned coming along. This was a black rhino, one of the last ones with the horns in our private game reserves. And a thing with the wildlife photography is to eye line. Eye line is so important. If you can be on the same eye line as the animal, it just is so much better and so much more captivating. So here's our beautiful line, but we're at eye line. And what you do is you get out the game drive vehicle, walk forward, line your belly with the line. No, you don't. You don't do that. Just try and get it that you can get as low as you can in the vehicle, or that the animal is on a rise to get that eye line. So here's video. How do you get convincing video? A thing that I want to explain is with video, there's 3 parts to it. There's the pre-roll, there's the roll, and there's the post-roll. Whenever you're going to edit a clip, you're going to edit a little bit of footage. You need a little bit of footage before the clip and a little bit of footage after the clip. And another thing with video is you don't always have to pan left and right, left and right, left and right. Sometimes roll and let the subject walk into the frame. And that's what happened here. Is I could see out the corner of my eye that the other rhinos were going to walk into the frame. So I stayed on the bull and just kept rolling, and then the others walked into frame, and it makes much more sense. So you see how good that moment is, because you locked off and you waited and you held, instead of panning, am I going to follow them in and then I've got a static image, or am I going to have a static image and have them walk in? Have a look at the negative space that I left on the left, to give them space to walk in. Negative space, and then they form the negative space. So that's what you as an artist are going to just have to say, what am I going to frame up and how am I going to explain it? Eyeline. So this is just that thing, you can see it, it puts the animal in the same space as you, and also focal point. Your focus always has to be, there's no such thing as always. Ideally would be the eye, but it's whatever you want to convey. So ideally your focus point is on the eye. So here I had to lie on my belly to get this photograph, be lying in the mud, but it's worth it. You get that reflection that Q gave us as a project recently. Watch your reflection shot. And here's lying on your belly to get eyeline with the giant bullfrog. Now here's a little thing.
Ooh. Living dangerously.
It's a ringhouse. So this is a ringhouse. We do catch and release in our area. We're in the plots. We're in the sort of, we've got a lot of wildlife, thankfully, still left. So we had it's a small ringhouse. You can see, I get my brother to do the catching. I do the photographing. And so here's the shots. This is how I got it, lying on the belly to get the eye level. And you can see if you're above eye level, it's not as good. If you're below or at eye level, suddenly it looks much more impressive. So that's just saying that eye level thing. Caution, we do this we've done this since we are kids. We know exactly the signs it's going to give before it sprays or strikes. And I know how to get out of the way of the snake by knowing its body behavior. So please, 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 this is a dangerous snake. It does spray. If it gets in your eyes, it can damage the eyes. Always wash out with water. Don't wash out with milk or anything with an oil. And go and try and get treatment, especially if it's a Mozambique or any of the other snakes. It really hurts. But just an example of saying eyeline. Here we're going to talk about for photographers is, should I shoot JPEG or should I shoot RAW? JPEG, you've got very little latitude to walk in for adjusting the image before it starts to fall apart or show, what do we call it? Can't remember the term. But at the photo below, I've got all the information that I need. So what I've done here is I've exposed for the highlights, and I'm going to open up on the low lights. So again, going back to it, Darryl and I, we shoot stills and video side by side. Things that you can't recreate, we'll be on the same framing. You can see Darryl's on the tripod, and you can see he's got the headphones on, and you can see the cable is running off to audio, which is on the left of us. So our audio is plugged into our camera. So we're doing an external microphone instead of recording on board because we needed high quality sound. So this was the setup that we used to shoot the stills in the video. And if anyone's going to make and have fun on set, it's going to be me. Not always appreciated, but what you can see in this rig is that we've got the lighting behind and to the side, and you'll see in the middle of the frame we're actually recording onto an external device. So because we needed some higher quality 4K, we recorded onto an external recorder that could record 4K. The thing that you might not have realized on your stills cameras is the HDMI out. HDMI out is a great thing to put onto a screen for viewing on a larger screen to get see your focus point. and it also allows you to go into a Shogun or Osmo, or not Osmo, Asmo, all these different recorders to shoot 4K. So the thing is that you can record HD on some of the cameras, full HD, and then 4K external, sometimes 4K internal. So this is just a way to record high resolution on bodies that you use every day.
Anton, I think we're kind of coming up to about an hour. I don't know how many more slides you've got.
Bugger. Geez, let me just rush through it. Sound. Sound is so important. Here's sound without video. Record the sound quick. We're just going to shoot sound. Quiet for a sec. Okay, going to record sound. So here's the thing for us, is that we as visual people rely on visual as being important. With video, video is more important than anything else. So when you go out, make sure that you're recording excellent sound, because the sound is going to be conveying, is the vehicle that explains your video. A lot of people are going into 4K and you say, why can't I do 4K? Well, because sometimes your software isn't capable. Sometimes your machine's not capable. Sometimes the operator is not capable. And sometimes it's just all of the above. So I was going to go into, this is the stills of the shoot that we did, and then here's the video of the shoot that we did. You're going to need a lot of different angles to explain the story of your video. So that one still would show that I've got a guy on a bike with a baobab, but with my video, I'm going to have to do more. So here I'm showing that you can use camels to transport in certain areas, but in the video, I'm going to have to say a little bit more. So it's a thing, whenever you look at a shoot and a shot, just say, how many cuts make up that image? How many angles make up that image? Here I can just say, I'm in Africa. You can see the guy's got a sort of Ghanaian outfit on. I've got donkeys. It means that we can transport through Africa. My image portrays it all. But now I've got to say a little bit more with my video. So it's a thing to, so you can see Dal and I shot side by side for that, but I only needed 1 or 2 frames for the thing. He needed a lot more frames, so we had to shoot drone and a whole bunch of stuff. So here's what Dal had to shoot to show rail transport. So they're side by side, but it still shows a whole different story. This is, so I'm just going to rush through it just so that we can get to some of the stuff that's quite important. Yep, have fun. Have fun. Yeah, anyway. 4K, guys, it eats space. It eats everything. It eats your resources. It eats everything. And everybody's saying, I need 4K, I need 4K. Do they need 4K? There's SD, that's the size of SD. That's HD. This is full HD. and that's the size of 4K. So it's not double the size of full HD. It's 4 times the size of full HD. So if you're wondering why the file's so big, is it the camera's a problem? No, it's because it's so much information. And why do you shoot on 4K? Because you can do a locked off shot in 4K, and then you can go in and do zooms in HD. So I'm just showing bottom right-hand corner. Bottom right-hand corner is the 4K image. It's locked off, but in your software, you can use it to pan across. So it's a locked off shot, but it looks as if I've got a slider, or I've got some sort of a thing. There's the buffalo. Suddenly I can zoom in, but I've got a one fixed lens of a 600 mm. So it's just showing you why it's sometimes good to use 4K, is it can do what we call, you can post zoom, post pan, and that sort of a thing. See what we got. It's just our outro. Great, so that's basically if you want to make a video, Q's asked me a couple of questions. What do I need? What setup? How many shots and all that? Get an example of the video that you're going to have to be shooting, and then write down how many angles they have and how many setups to make the cutaways. It's very, very boring watching a flat image, so that's why you need to have a lot of cutaways to actually make it up, to explain it. And so that's the thing, is to actually work out how many setups do I need? How long is it going to take me to take the tripod, move it over there, to change lenses, to change focus, all of those things. How much time do I need to do that? And so that's the thing that we don't realize with video shoots, is they take a lot longer than they do with photo shoots. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. Great, that's it. Q, any questions?
Fantastic. Well, as this is a recording, we'll kind of get questions once you've posted it up there. But I just wanted to thank you very much for putting this together for us at fairly short notice, and dealing with our technical issues, etc. So yeah, no, I think it was amazing. Some amazing content there. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
100%. If you guys have got some time, I'll just play out with a little bit of fun that we have as well.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks.
Cool. Here we go. Great. Now we've got a bit of a glitch. That's the way it rolls.
Murphy's Law.
Oh, man. I think this happened at the prezzo as well, is that they didn't actually do their time planning right, and so we actually couldn't play a lot of the stuff that we wanted. Either way, all it is that, yeah, there you go. It's not going to play. Sorry, I'm just going to get back to here. Yeah, I'm just going to play this. Just a thing that I wanted to actually say to everybody is this thing that I wanted to share. Can you see this, Q?
I can see it, yeah. Just still waiting to come up.
How's that, Q?
Yep, yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to go to this shot. So we were asked to do a concert, and it was like, okay, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We needed 8 cameras, and it was like, oh, how are we going to do it? And basically, it's if the setup for 1 camera, you think, okay, fine, I'm going to do a setup for 2 cameras, then I'm going to go to 3, then I'm going to 4. And basically, it's just all you do is you say, okay, how many cameras do I need? How many tripods do I need? How many lenses? And then the same setup for 1 is the same setup for 2. And if you can do that, then you can do, I think this was 25 cameras. And those were all the operators we had for I think it was 25 cameras. And what you do is you'd have 1 wide static at a position, and then 1 camera operated zoom. So you'd actually double up. So I think this was like every person had 2 cameras to watch, and that person would watch the footage and the batteries on that camera. Then when we had the Casper fill up, I think this was the dome, suddenly it just goes up to more, and you're like, well, fine. So suddenly I need more operators and I need more things, and you just keep on increasing that as you go. The big one that we had was this one. This was we had a fraction of the operators. I think we had 10 operators in all, and we had all these cameras that we had to put on for the Lira show. And again, all you got is you just hire the cameras and hire the bodies. And the reason we chose to go everything Canon is, number one, it was the best image, best bang for the buck, and then everything's interchangeable. So all the batteries were interchangeable, all the cards were interchangeable, all the body caps and everything was interchangeable. Just keep track of what body, what lens, what everything came from where, mark everything. So everything that we got from Glow Hire was marked with the same colored sticker. Everything we got from all the other things, outdoor photo, they came with different colors. So you just make sure at the end of the day, everything with the same colored thing goes back to the same colored shot. And that's how you do it. Yeah, so that this gear got us to won us the SAMAs. And so Canon has won, I think, 4 SAMAs so far, or three SAMAs, I can't remember. Yeah, so it's good to go.
Fantastic, that's excellent. So yeah, thanks very much, Anton. Really appreciate it. Some good stuff there. And once it's up, I'm sure people will comment, and then we can answer questions there. So thank you very much.
100%. Thanks, Q. Thanks,
All right, pleasure. Cheers, eh?
Thanks, man. Bye.